You start your morning with it. You rely on it to get through the day. You think you're drinking quality coffee. But here is what the coffee industry does not want you to know. That jar or bag in your cupboard is filled with stale, low-grade beans, chemical additives, and in some cases barely any real coffee at all. I'm not being dramatic. When you understand how commercial coffee is sourced, processed, and packaged, it is absolutely shocking. Most coffee sold in Australian supermarkets is made from the cheapest beans available, sitting in warehouses for months or even years before it reaches your cup. You are paying good money for burnt, over-roasted beans that mask defects, or instant coffee that has been so heavily processed it barely resembles real coffee anymore. Big brands rely on heavy marketing and brand recognition while serving you inferior products. I spent months investigating this, visiting roasteries, talking to coffee experts, reading industry reports, and taste testing products across the market. What I discovered completely changed how I buy coffee. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which coffee brands are selling you garbage and what you should be buying instead. Let's expose the truth. Number 10. International Roast Instant Coffee. Let's start with one of Australia's most popular instant coffees. International Roast has been around for decades and is in millions of Australian homes. At $10 for 500 grams, it seems like reasonable value. But here's the problem. International Roast is made from Robusta beans, not Arabica. Robusta is the low-grade coffee that is grown at low altitudes, harvested mechanically, and tastes harsh and bitter. It is chosen because it is cheap and has high caffeine content, not because it tastes good. The beans are roasted so dark they are basically burnt. This is not a style choice. It is done to mask defects in the beans. When you over-roast coffee, you destroy the natural flavors and create a uniform burnt taste that hides any quality issues. Look at the color when you mix it. It is almost black. Real coffee should have complexity and variation in color. This looks carbonized. The taste is harsh, bitter, and one-dimensional. There is no sweetness, no complexity, no fruit or floral notes, just bitter burnt flavor with an unpleasant aftertaste. The instant coffee process itself is problematic. They spray dry coffee extract at high temperatures, which destroys most of the aromatic compounds that make coffee taste good. You are left with concentrated caffeine and burnt flavor. I compared International Roast to quality instant coffee made from Arabica beans. The difference was staggering. Good instant coffee has depth and complexity. International Roast tastes like burnt water with caffeine. At $10 for 500 grams, you are paying $20 per kilogram for the lowest grade coffee available, processed to remove everything good about it. You are drinking it for caffeine, not for enjoyment. Number 9. Moccona Classic Medium Roast. Moccona is heavily advertised and positioned as premium instant coffee. The marketing shows exotic locations and emphasizes quality. At $14 for 400 grams, they are charging premium prices. Read the label carefully. The label says blend of Arabica and Robusta beans. That blend is doing a lot of work. When companies blend Arabica with Robusta, it is to cut costs while maintaining some Arabica character. The problem is they never tell you the ratio. Is it 90% Arabica and 10% Robusta? Or 50% Arabica and 50% Robusta? Or mostly Robusta with just enough Arabica to legally call it a blend? They will not say, because if they did, you would realize you are paying premium prices for a budget blend. The taste is better than International Roast, but that is a low bar. Moccona is smooth but bland. There is minimal flavor complexity, and that distinctive instant coffee chemical taste you cannot quite place. That chemical taste comes from the freeze-drying or spray-drying process. High heat and pressure change the chemical composition of coffee, creating compounds that do not exist in fresh brewed coffee. The granules are suspiciously uniform in size and color. Real coffee varies. This uniformity suggests heavy processing and standardization that prioritizes consistency over quality. I did a simple test. I made Moccona and let it sit for 10 minutes. The taste degraded rapidly and developed a sour chemical aftertaste. Quality coffee maintains its flavor profile even as it cools. At $14 for 400 grams, that is $35 per kilogram. You are paying luxury prices for instant coffee made from an undisclosed blend of beans that has been heavily processed. The only thing premium about Moccona is the marketing budget. Number 8. Nescafé Gold Blend. Nescafé is the biggest coffee brand in the world, and Gold Blend is their premium instant offering. At $16 for 400 grams, they are positioning this as high-end instant coffee. The label says 100% pure coffee, which sounds good until you realize that is the bare minimum requirement. Of course, it is 100% coffee. That is what you are buying. The fact they are advertising this as a feature tells you something. It also says premium Arabica beans, but provides no details about origin, roast date, or processing. Premium according to who? Their own marketing department. The taste is smooth and inoffensive, which is exactly the problem. Coffee should have character. It should have acidity, sweetness, and bitterness in balance. Gold Blend tastes like brown water with a hint of coffee flavor. That smoothness comes from over-processed coffee. They have removed everything interesting about the coffee to create a bland product that will not offend anyone. It is the coffee equivalent of elevator music. The freeze-drying process Nescafé uses creates those golden granules that look appealing in the jar. But freeze-drying requires extremely low temperatures and pressures that alter the coffee chemistry. You are not drinking coffee. You are drinking a coffee-flavored product. I compared Nescafé Gold to fresh ground coffee. It was not even close. Fresh coffee has layers of flavor, fruit, chocolate, nuts, even floral notes depending on the beans. Nescafé Gold tastes like generic coffee flavor with no complexity. The jar is clear glass, which is terrible for coffee preservation. Light degrades coffee rapidly, breaking down the oils and aromatic compounds. By the time you buy it, significant degradation has already occurred. At $16 for 400 grams, you are paying $40 per kilogram for freeze-dried coffee that has been sitting in clear jars under supermarket lights. You are paying for the Nescafé name, not quality. Number 7. Lavazza Qualità Rossa Ground Coffee. Now we are moving to ground coffee, and Lavazza is everywhere in Australian supermarkets. The Italian branding and red packaging make it look premium and authentic. At $11 for 250 grams, that is $44 per kilogram. But here is what they do not tell you. Lavazza Qualità Rossa is a blend designed for the mass market. It contains both Arabica and Robusta beans from multiple origins. That blend is created for consistency and cost control, not quality. The roast is dark, very dark. Dark roasting is a technique to mask defects and create uniform flavor across different bean qualities. When you roast coffee this dark, you destroy the origin characteristics and subtle flavors that make good coffee interesting. The grind is pre-ground months before you buy it. Ground coffee starts degrading immediately after grinding. Within 15 minutes, significant aromatic compounds are lost. Within days, it is noticeably stale. Within weeks, it is basically dead. Lavazza grinds this coffee, packages it in bags that are not fully airtight, ships it around the world, and stores it in warehouses before it reaches Australian shelves. By the time you brew it, you are drinking coffee that has been ground for months. I opened a fresh bag of Lavazza and smelled it next to freshly ground specialty coffee. The Lavazza smelled flat and woody with minimal aroma. The fresh coffee smelled explosive, fruit, chocolate, flowers, complexity. The taste is strong and bitter with minimal complexity. That strength is not quality. It is darkness of roast and Robusta content. You are tasting roast, not coffee. The packaging has a tiny valve that is supposed to let carbon dioxide out while keeping oxygen out. These valves are only marginally effective. They cannot stop the degradation that happens to pre-ground coffee. At $11 for 250 grams, you are paying $44 per kilogram for pre-ground coffee that has been sitting around for months. You could buy fresh whole beans from a local roaster for similar or less money. Number 6. Harris Coffee Signature Blend. Harris is an Australian brand that trades heavily on local identity. The packaging features Australian imagery and emphasizes their Adelaide origins. At $13 for 250 grams, they are charging $52 per kilogram. But Harris is owned by Victoria Food and Beverage, a massive food conglomerate. This is not artisan Australian coffee, it is industrial coffee, with Australian marketing. The signature blend contains beans from Brazil, Colombia, and other origins. That multi-origin blend is about cost management. They are buying beans based on commodity prices, not quality, and blending them to maintain a consistent flavor regardless of source. The roast date is not printed on the package. That is a massive red flag. Quality coffee roasters proudly display roast dates because fresh coffee is better coffee. When there is no roast date, the coffee could have been roasted months or even a year ago. The beans themselves vary wildly in size, color, and appearance. Quality coffee is carefully sorted and graded. This looks like mixed-grade beans that did not make the cut for premium products. I brewed Harris and it tasted flat and woody with a papery aftertaste. That papery taste is the signature of stale coffee. The oils have oxidized and the aromatic compounds have degraded. The packaging is a standard foil bag with a valve, but without a roast date, you have no idea how long it has been sitting. Coffee degrades rapidly after roasting. After 4 to 6 weeks, it is noticeably worse. After 3 months, it is basically dead. Harris relies on Australian identity and supermarket placement to sell volume. The quality does not match the price. At $52 per kilogram, you are paying for marketing and distribution, not coffee quality. Number 5. Vittoria Coffee Espresso Coffee Beans. Vittoria is one of the biggest coffee brands in Australia. You see their beans in cafes, supermarkets, and offices everywhere. At $16 for 1 kilogram, it seems like reasonable pricing for whole beans. But Vittoria is commodity coffee dressed up as specialty coffee. They source beans from multiple countries, blend them based on price and availability, and roast them dark to create consistent flavor. The packaging says 100% Arabica, which sounds premium until you realize Arabica is a species, not a quality grade. There are terrible Arabica beans and excellent Robusta beans. Just saying Arabica means nothing without origin and grade information. The roast is dark and oily. Those oils on the surface of the beans are a sign of over-roasting. When you roast coffee that dark, oils migrate to the surface where they oxidize and turn rancid. Those shiny beans are already degrading. There is no roast date on Vittoria bags. They use a best before date instead, which could be 12 to 18 months from the roast date. You have no idea if you are buying coffee that was roasted last week or last year. I opened a bag of Vittoria, and the beans smelled smoky and flat. Quality coffee beans smell complex and vibrant. Fruit, chocolate, caramel, nuts. Vittoria smells like roast and smoke, which means you are tasting the roasting process, not the coffee itself. The taste is strong, bitter, and one-dimensional. The dark roast destroys the origin characteristics that make different coffees interesting: Brazilian, Colombian, Ethiopian. They all taste the same when you roast them this dark. Vittoria markets heavily to cafes and offices. They provide equipment and training in exchange for exclusive coffee contracts. That is not about quality, it is about distribution control and volume sales. At $16 per kilogram, Vittoria is not outrageously expensive, but you are not getting good coffee. You are getting commodity beans roasted dark to hide quality issues and packaged without transparency about freshness. Number 4. Nespresso Original Pods. Nespresso has created an entire cult around their pod system, with boutique stores, celebrity endorsements, and premium positioning. At $8 to $10 for 10 pods, you are paying roughly $80 to $100 per kilogram of coffee. Let me say that again. You are paying up to $100 per kilogram for coffee in aluminum pods. This is a premium price for what it actually is. Those pods contain about 5 to 6 grams of coffee each. The coffee inside is ground months before you buy it. Ground coffee degrades rapidly, and being sealed in aluminum does not stop that degradation. It only slows it. The result is stale coffee, not fresh espresso. The coffee inside Nespresso pods is commodity-grade Arabica, and it is dark roasted. The intensity ratings from 1 to 13 are not about quality, they are about roast level and body. A rating of 12 does not mean better coffee, it means a darker roast. Dark roasts hide defects, they do not elevate quality. Nespresso sources from multiple countries and blends for consistency. They are not using single origin specialty grade beans. They use commercial grade coffee processed and blended for uniformity rather than character. The convenience factor is undeniable, but you pay an astronomical premium for that convenience. The cost is not in the coffee, it is in the packaging, the marketing, and the proprietary system that locks you into buying their pods. Convenience has a price. When I compared Nespresso to fresh espresso made from quality beans, the difference was massive. Nespresso is smooth and inoffensive, but it lacks complexity. Fresh espresso delivers layers of flavor and a vibrant finish. Complexity matters in a cup of espresso. The environmental impact is terrible. Aluminum pods are technically recyclable, but most end up in landfill. Nespresso has a recycling program, yet participation is low. You drive a lot of waste to get mediocre coffee. This is waste. The machines themselves cost $200 to $800, and you are effectively locked into buying Nespresso pods unless you seek third-party compatible pods, which Nespresso actively fights against. That lock-in is part of the business model. At $80 to $100 per kilogram, you are paying luxury prices for commodity coffee in wasteful packaging. The only thing truly premium about Nespresso is the marketing and the price. Number 3. Moccona Kenya coffee beans. Moccona entered the whole bean market with single-origin coffees that look specialty but are not. The Kenya beans are marketed as premium single-origin. $16 for 400 grams, that is $40 per kilogram. Here is the problem. The package says product of Kenya, but provides no information about region, farm, altitude, processing method, or grade. Kenya produces some of the world's best coffee, but it also produces commercial-grade coffee. Without transparency about grade and processing, you are likely getting commercial-grade Kenyan coffee that did not make the specialty market. True specialty Kenyan coffee is traceable to specific regions or cooperatives and costs significantly more. The roast is medium dark, which is too dark for Kenyan coffee. Kenyan beans are prized for their bright acidity, fruit notes, and complexity. When you roast them this dark, you destroy those characteristics. There is no roast date on the package. There is only a best before date 18 months away. Quality coffee roasters put the exact roast date because freshness matters. Moccona hides behind best before dates because their beans are not fresh. I brewed this coffee and it tasted generic with minimal Kenyan character. Real Kenyan coffee has distinctive blackcurrant and citrus notes with wine-like acidity. This tasted like standard medium coffee with a slight fruity hint. The beans vary significantly in size and color within the same bag. Quality single-origin coffee is carefully sorted and graded. This looks like mixed-grade beans that were packaged together. Moccona is leveraging single-origin marketing to charge premium prices for commodity coffee. They are betting that consumers recognize Kenya as good coffee without understanding what makes Kenyan coffee actually special. At $40 per kilogram with no roast date and questionable sourcing, you are paying specialty prices for commercial-grade coffee with specialty marketing. Number 2. Lavazza Super Crema. Super Crema is Lavazza's mid-range whole bean offering, and it is everywhere in Australian supermarkets and cafes. At $28 for 1 kilogram, it is positioned as affordable premium coffee. The blend contains 60% Arabica and 40% Robusta from Indonesia, Vietnam, and Central America. That 40% Robusta is there for one reason: profit margins. Robusta is significantly cheaper than Arabica and has higher caffeine content, but it tastes harsh and bitter. The marketing emphasizes a creamy texture and a mild flavor, which is corporate speak, for we have roasted this to be inoffensive. Coffee should have character and complexity, not just be smooth and mild. The beans are roasted to a medium level, which sounds reasonable until you realize they are roasting different bean qualities together. Quality roasters roast to highlight origin characteristics. Commercial roasters roast to create consistent flavor across varying bean quality. There is no roast date. The packaging has a best before date set 18 months ahead, which tells you nothing about actual freshness. Coffee is best consumed within 2 to 4 weeks of roasting. After 3 months, it is noticeably degraded. I bought Super Crema and the beans looked visually inconsistent. Different sizes, different colors, different surface oil levels. This suggests beans from different origins roasted at different times were mixed together. The taste is smooth but boring. There is no brightness, no fruit, no complexity, just a generic coffee flavor with a slightly creamy body. The Robusta adds a harsh edge and excessive bitterness. Lavazza markets heavily on Italian heritage, but Italy is not known for coffee growing. They import everything. Italian coffee culture favors dark roasts and espresso, which is fine, but that does not mean Italian brands are higher quality, at $28 per kilogram. Super Creamer is not outrageously priced, but you are not getting quality coffee. You are getting a commercial blend with 40% cheaper beans, no transparency on freshness, and marketing based on Italian stereotypes. Number 1. Robert Tim's Blend 77. This is the worst widely available coffee in Australian supermarkets. Robert Tim's has been around since 1883 and trades entirely on heritage and nostalgia. At $11 for 200 grams, that is $55 per kilogram. Let me be clear, this coffee is terrible and wildly overpriced. The packaging prominently displays since 1883. They are selling heritage because they cannot sell quality. The fact that a brand is old does not mean the product is good. Blend 77 is pre-ground coffee from undisclosed origins, roasted to oblivion. The grind is so fine and the roast so dark that you are essentially brewing burnt coffee powder. There is no origin information, no roast date, only a best before date months into the future. Quality coffee roasters proudly display sourcing and freshness information. Robert Tim's hides everything behind vintage branding. I opened a bag and the coffee smelled aggressively burnt with zero complexity. Quality coffee smells like a symphony of aromas, fruit, chocolate, nuts, flowers. This smelled like an ashtray. The grind is inconsistent. Some particles are powder, others are larger chunks. Quality grinding requires precision. This looks like it was ground with industrial equipment set for speed, not quality. I brewed it according to the package directions, and the result was undrinkable. It was intensely bitter and harsh, with a burnt rubber aftertaste that lingered for minutes. There was zero sweetness, zero acidity, zero fruit. Just aggressive bitterness. The packaging is absurd. A 200-gram bag for $11, when whole bean coffee from specialty roasters costs $35 to $45 per kilogram. You are paying a 25 to 50% premium for pre-ground stale coffee with heritage marketing. Robert Tim's relies entirely on older Australians who remember the brand from decades ago and associate it with quality. That loyalty is being exploited to sell inferior coffee at premium prices. At $55 per kilogram for pre-ground coffee with no freshness information and burnt flavour, Robert Tim's is the worst value in Australian supermarket coffee. So what should you actually buy? Number 1. Local specialty roasters. Find a local coffee roaster in your city or region. Melbourne has hundreds, Sydney has dozens. Even smaller cities have specialty roasters. Buy whole beans with a roast date within the last 2 weeks. Check the roast date, it matters. At $35 to $50 per kilogram, specialty coffee costs more upfront, but it provides infinitely better value. You are getting traceable single origin beans roasted to highlight their unique characteristics. Grind, just before brewing. The difference between pre-ground and fresh ground coffee is night and day. Fresh really makes the difference. Number 2. Online specialty subscriptions. Services like Coffee Snob, Market Lane, or Rubric deliver freshly roasted coffee to your door. They rotate single origins from different countries, so you experience real variety. At $40 to $55 per kilogram, including shipping, it is competitive with supermarket specialty brands, but actually fresh and high quality. Number 3. Whole bean coffee with roast dates. If you must buy from supermarkets, look for whole beans with actual roast dates printed on the bag. Some supermarkets carry specialty brands like Five Senses, Genovese, or Campos. Check the roast date. If it is more than 4 weeks old, skip it. Whole beans stay fresh longer than ground, but they still degrade. Skip stale bags. At $40 to $50 per kilogram, you are paying similar to other supermarket options, but you are getting actual specialty coffee. If this video changed how you think about coffee, smash that like button right now. Share this with every coffee drinker you know, because most Australians are drinking terrible coffee without realizing it. Share what you learned. Subscribe, because I am exposing more food industry deceptions and helping you make better choices. Hit that bell icon so you do not miss the next investigation. Subscribe to stay updated. Comment below and tell me which coffee brand shocked you most, or what you have been drinking without knowing what you are actually getting. I read every comment. Comment and join the conversation. Together, we are holding these companies accountable and upgrading Australia's coffee culture one cup at a time. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.